Okay, welcome to this open classroom. We're just going to do a quick sound check and make sure everything is sounding fine. Okay, welcome. It is. All right. So this open classroom, we will be speaking with Free Palestine TV. We're waiting for a colleague to join from the West Bank. And as soon as she does, we will bring her into the discussion. But before we start the discussion, I want to remind everybody that we are, first of all, a class at LAU. There is a class called Media in Palestine. Congratulations, LAU students. But there's also an open classroom that is available for anyone in the world to take Media in Palestine, a crash course version of Media in Palestine, so a condensed version. And this is free. It's offered by LAU, and anyone who completes it gets a certificate. We opened registration in September, and over 300 people registered to take this free course online. Congratulations, that's wonderful. And now they're progressing through the content. Hi, welcome, Sarah. So as we're joined in person by students from the LAU course, we also have people who have joined us online, and they can interact with us by using the comments feature on YouTube. And so if you have any comment or question during the live broadcast, during this open classroom, you can certainly put it there. We will open the floor for the wonderful questions from the students in the audience here. But that will be the overall format of the presentation. Will be a very brief intro by me, just to give some context to this conversation. And then I'll interview Laith and then Fairouz, and then we'll turn it to you for questions. I wanted to mention that this past Saturday, there was an important report and book. This is the printed version, launched, and it's now available on the Media in Palestine website. I believe I put it for the open access class too. If I didn't, then I will be in the report as well. Documents the media side happening in Palestine. I wanted to begin this presentation today first by thinking about that, because not only is journalism and work one of the jobs in the world, but it is evident that with the current genocide in Palestine, that Palestine is one of the most deadly places in the world for journalists because of Israel's and violent occupation genocide. And so this report is great, not only because it honors their work, but it also honors their life. So it gives a photo of each journalist and then a vignette about their work and their life. So this will be available for anyone in LAU to come to the IMR office, have a look if you want to see the actual copy. But otherwise, I said there's a PDF, and I'll make it available on the Media in Palestine course, both the online free version and the full version here at LAU. So just to remind, comments are disabled. We'll use the chat for questions. Kama is telling me yes, or reminding me yes, that the comments on the YouTube video are disabled, but you can use the chat to post any question. So just to clarify what I said, it's not the comment feature, it's the live chat where you can post your questions or any comments. So thank you for that, Fatima, I appreciate that. So just to remind everybody, we are in the midst of a media analysis. Our last open classroom was a presentation on quantitative research of articles that featured Palestinian men and women and children, and we looked at specifically the representation of Palestinian men through a quantitative analysis. Now there's also a qualitative analysis that we're doing now, and I have a slide on the screen that shows the questions that we're asking. The primary question that we're asking is, how does news published by the BBC, Al Jazeera English, and CNN during the ongoing Israeli war on Gaza humanize or dehumanize Palestinian men and boys? We have some sub-questions as well, but these are the primary questions, and we're doing this research together as a class, the students that are here at LAU, and each student's analyzing 3 articles. The reason I bring this up is because what we've been noticing throughout this last year is how awful the Western media have been. And I just want to mention this very brief context that I've shared with you all in class before, which is this context of media imperialism, and that the representation that we're seeing in Palestine now is not new. So we have to remember that since the British occupied, and this is the newspaper that I'm showing them, And if Fuad pulls up the YouTube, you'll be able to see it too. But this newspaper headline basically says, Jerusalem is rescued by British after 673 years of quote unquote Muslim rule. And so from the Muslim rule to the rescued from, we can see how this headline reproduces Orientalist discourses and really promotes white supremacy and colonialism in the region. And this is from 1917. And it's no different than the newspapers we see today. So our opportunity to speak with FPTV to learn from Free Palestine Television is the fact that this is a current example of trying to resist this narrative, but that this narrative has been something that's been in the works in Western media for over 100 years. We have other examples throughout these years and times where we can look at how media in this region has resisted colonialism. So I like to think of FPTV as a current example of resisting colonialism, but we can go back to the way the FLN resisted the Algerian occupation. If you took Media and Society at LAU, which you both did, you remember reading that article by Frantz Fanon when he talks about how the Algerians used radio to resist the Algerian French occupation. And there was a couple of things that he said. He said, one, that Algerians used radio as a way to resist the colonial power that the French established through radio themselves. So it is through media that imperialists established power, and the French used radio for that. And then the Algerians used radio as well as a way to fight back against that. So they were able to challenge colonial authority through the radio, but they also were able to engage in active community. So people would listen and then they would spread the news word of mouth. Remember, there's no internet, there's no social media. So media was already being used as a tool to organize. So I think that's something that we can think about within the context of FPTV. How does it challenge the voice of colonial authority? How does it challenge imperialism? How does it challenge white supremacy? And how does it promote an active community? So we also see examples from indigenous using early forms of the internet. We know that FPTV is mainly distributed online, like a lot of independent media coming from Palestine. Some of the journalists killed in this media Gaza, this media genocide book, are journalists who were specifically reporting online. But we know that indigenous people have used online to resist, and we can look at the Zapatistas and the way they used the very early form of the internet as a way to also break the silence of indigenous people. We're not reported by the media, we're not being quoted on by the press until they took up guns and then sent communiques across the internet explaining why. And all of a sudden the media knew who the Zapatistas were. So the media became a tool at that point as well. So Fuad,
Just put it on live.
yeah, you can put it live, but just keep it mute for now, okay? Put the sound down behind me, but keep the live stream on, okay? Thank you. This is perfect. Thank you. So the Zapatistas not only broke the silence that was forced upon indigenous people, they were completely ignored, disregarded, not even asked a question in the media, and then all of a sudden the media knew who they were.
You gotta live. Fuad.
Show him, go show him and come back in a little bit, okay? You know how to get there?
No. Upstairs.
Go up around the stairs and down the hall, and there's a door that's marked studio. We'll see how fast you can run. That was a quick pause because we're trying to make a technical adjustment here. Sure, that's fine. Okay, so just to conclude this thought about the Zapatistas, not only were they able through early forms of the internet to break the silence that was imposed on indigenous people, but they were also able to organize collective action through the internet. And so this happened in various ways, and some of it included organizing collective media making to spread the message further for the Zapatista people. So what I'm trying to get at is that there's very specific questions we should be asking about independent media, community media, so that we can learn from those experiences. Not only the whys, the what, the hows, but also thinking about the history of independent media. And so I'm trying as much as possible to learn about independent forms of media coming from Palestine, from other indigenous peoples around the world, and connect up those lessons so we can learn across those different experiences. So for example, what were the tactics used by the Zapatistas? What were the tactics used in Palestine? And what can we learn from that? So some of that is through media history that we're able to do that learning. Some of that is thinking about their specific tactics of media making. So for example, in both Palestine and Chiapas, a lot of media making happens clandestinely. You know what that means? Clandestine? It means when it's underground, when the location is not known. And a lot of this has to happen because, as we see in Lebanon, Al Mayadeen was attacked last week. Because they are journalists in their media, and even though it's a war crime, we know that Israel doesn't respect war crimes, so they still targeted journalists. But journalists know that because Al Mayadeen was targeted, as we know from your quiz, October 23rd. You don't even remember? Okay, this is one of the booth exercises we did. There were 3 journalists who were killed in the very early days after October 7th in Lebanon. Farah, it was one of them, and 2 were Al Mayadeen journalists, including Farah, and we believe it was October 23rd. Did you find the date? No, see? Anyway, the point is it happened within the first month after October 7th, and since that time, most journalism in Lebanon has moved to alternative locations. And so when Al Mayadeen's office was hit last week, it wasn't actually where people were working out of. It was previously their offices. So luckily, no one was hurt. So, so basically learning from these different tactics, but also considering the ways in which they're able to sustain themselves. So for example, how the Zapatistas or how different experiences of media in Palestine have been organized differently in order to be sustainable. And so this helps us think critically about community media. So I noticed Fairouz here. So I'm going to add her to the stage. Hi, Fairouz. Can we test your mic and see if we can hear you okay?
I can hear you. You can hear me. And everything.
Fuad, can we try turning up her,
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. I test the mic, and mic, it's okay with me. So I don't know with you. No.
Fairouz, can you hear me? Can you try your mic again?
Okay. Can you hear me now? It's okay?
Okay, it's perfect. So we're going to come to you in a second, Fairouz. We're going to start with Laith.
Hi, Laith.
And I just was giving a bit of background and talking as slow as I can and fixing up some technical problems until we got you connected. So this is great. It worked out perfectly. So welcome to our colleagues from Free Palestine TV. We're going to start with Laith Marouf and ask him to give us a brief about Free Palestine TV. We'll be with you for the next hour. And after discussing some of these questions about Free Palestine TV, we're going to turn to Fairouz for a case study of Prisoners of War, which is a show that she produces with former prisoners, Palestinian prisoners of war. So Laith, can you first tell us, how is FPTV an example of liberatory community media?
Well, there's 2 things that make it clearly, number one, community media, which is that the audience is the only funder. We don't have any corporate and or government funding. It's by donation. So the community is paying for it because they value it. Therefore, it's theirs. The other part of it is that myself and Fairouz are volunteers as administrators of the project. We're not making a salary from this. While at the same time, the production of the content by the journalists and the editors and translators, all of that is done in ways that are to build capacity within the communities that we want the news to cover. So we're not just going in with professionals to go and cover the story at a certain community. We're looking for young, rising, needing training, needing polishing members of that community to be the ones that produce the content from there. So the journalists that we work with in the West Bank, we have now 8 journalists on the ground in the West Bank. They're all young, they're all from the location, the city, the town, the village that they are covering. They're not even, not only are they Palestinian, but they're also, resident of Tul Karim that is covering Tul Karim. A Palestinian from Jenin that is covering his own community and or her community. And the same thing is for the translation teams and the editing teams. They're all young people that need experience, and they are from all of these communities. And therefore, you see, it's a holistic approach, the building capacity within communities, the having the those capacities be on the ground inside the communities, and finally the part about the community themselves investing in the content because they can see that this is okay. And the last thing I would say is that we are not trying to reproduce things that are out there in the market. We are very conscious about covering the locations and the stories that the big producers, media producers, and or the clickbait are not doing. So we are covering in the West Bank, for instance, where there's not much coverage, as we see the story in Palestine is overwhelming now for the last year, concentrated on Gaza, and nobody's hearing what's happening in the West Bank. Similarly, our content from Lebanon, it is an area that nobody's covering in English. And now we are also going to start producing from Jordan. And so that's, again, a location that nobody's hearing about what's happening there. So those, kind of are the around why it's community. And
Okay, so then let's explain the liberatory part. So how is this community media making part of liberation? How is it liberatory? Either for the people who are part of it, the community who's part of it, or for, I guess, the audience on the receiving end. Why would you call FPTV liberatory media?
It's liberatory media because it's unapologetic from even the branding. It's free Palestine TV. It's not, it's clearly saying we want the liberation of Palestine. So from, the brand, the logo, here you got the Palestinian flag colors, but also at the heart of it is the triangle, the red triangle. So it's openly, unapologetically liberation aimed, and it's Palestinians and Lebanese and Arabs speaking about their experience and projecting it to the world in English unapologetically with that positioning.
Okay, so let's go to now how FPTV specifically challenges the Zionist narrative in Western media.
Well, we first off use the word Zionist all the time. Okay, so we're not, for a long time, we're trying to avoid this word Zionist, and it's the best example, thing that can define what is our enemy. So it's a political project that is colonial, so it doesn't mince word when we say Zionist. We're not using the word Israel, okay? We're just gonna say the Zionist colony, okay? We are, showing not only the, the suffering under occupation and colonialism and genocide, we're also advocating for liberation, and we're highlighting the military resistance and celebrating it. So, for instance, we translate all the, we have a whole team that's all their job is taking all the videos coming out of the resistance groups across the region and translating them, not just with subtitles, but putting all the graphics in English and so on, and distributing them online. So that's how we are in general. Plus, we have multiple shows that, like the show that Fairouz came up with and is producing, Prisoners of War, that is telling the stories of the Palestinian prisoners in Israeli dungeons that have come out and their experience and so forth. We have another show called Wartime Cafe, where we interview personalities in Lebanon, whether Lebanese or not, in English, about the current affairs and their various ways of resisting. So it's we're challenging in the colonial language of English, the most widespread language right now in the world. So it is fighting the Zionists in their own turf.
Okay. Now, when it comes to FPTV's supporting resistance narratives, can you give us any examples from content you've produced that you feel that there's ways in which it specifically supports resistance narratives?
So yeah, I mentioned all the operation videos that are coming out every day. So upwards of 12 videos a day coming out. But also the visits on the ground that we do, for instance, here in Lebanon, the tours of locations. And we are showing the people what's happening in Lebanon. We are also narrating to them and speaking to the Lebanese people on the ground about their opinions and their aspirations. And you can hear the defiant resistance mood. We're bringing guests from around the world that are coming in Lebanon, doing tour with them, which is breaking records in terms of watch, and so on, and is bringing that story to the world, and it's all put in a resistance packaging. We're not just crying on the shoulder of our colonizer, whichever works. We are projecting liberation, and that is coming.
Okay. Well, I want to actually go back to some of the things I was saying at the start when I was giving some context about media imperialism. When we saw the case study of the Algerians using radio to resist colonial authority, just picking up on this point about not crying on the shoulder of your colonizer, how do you think FPTV, through its content or its way of producing, its mission, its means, the kind of language that's used, how do you think that content, those ethics challenge colonial authority?
Well, many ways. Number one, if you look at what is out there right now, even from alternative sources of or progressive media online and so on, you see people still dancing around support of resistance. We are very clear. We are instigating even to our audience to take action. Even the ones that are in the West, we challenge this idea that these demonstrations are going to do anything. So we advocate for direct action by citizens in the West. And clearly, the fact that we are unapologetic like this, number one, sets us separate from all that is out there. And you could tell, obviously, the blowback that we're getting from the Zionist authorities and collaborationist authorities around the world. Although we're still we have 11,000 followers on Twitter, another 11,000 on YouTube and so on. So, but the amount of viewership compared to followership and the uniqueness of the content makes it a big challenge to the authorities, Zionist and imperialist.
Okay, so just another way of connecting FPTV to some of the context that I was talking about before. When we looked at the case study of the Zapatistas, they specifically organized their media to break the silences imposed on indigenous people. And even the way that the Zapatistas talked about Western media, they talked about the lies. So these lies create silences, and we don't hear the voices, the experiences of indigenous people. So how does FPTV's content break silences and break through the lies of the colonizer?
Again, I think the key thing is being on the ground, and there's so much coming out from the ground, let's say in Palestine, that is raw footage. Palestinian citizen journalists are just showing us the moment of an explosion, the moment of death, and then you have the resistance that are doing the videos of their operations. Those are the content that we're getting from the ground. What we're trying to do is put context to this. We don't want the clickbait. It's very easy for us right now to do like everybody else and just put these raw 20-second, 30-second, 40-second videos and flood. But this is just does not lead to actually change, okay? Because it doesn't contextualize anything. It could be used in so many different ways, this raw footage. For instance, the Zionists could be using it as something that they gratifying for them. You go to the Zionist Telegram pages, and they are sharing all the death of the Palestinians, and they're all celebrating it under. Okay, so what we do is we have these journalists on the ground, contextualize the West Bank, and they're also covering the happy moments of the releases of prisoners of war that we're seeing, and so on. So it's contextualized, not raw emotional footage.
Okay, I think this would be a good point to bring in Fairouz and present the questions that we have for you concerning prisoners of war. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about challenges in producing content and distributing content, because it's a question that also applies to you and your work, Fairouz, because you're actually in historic Palestine. So Fuad, we're going to turn to Fairouz, and we're going to want to hear her answer. So when she answers, open up the house speakers so we can hear her. So Fairouz, welcome so much. Thank you for joining us live from Palestine, connecting with us here in Beirut. It's so nice to have you back at Lebanese American University again. Hopefully one day we will see you here again in person. Can you tell us about how you produce Prisoners of War Speak and why you wanted to start this show?
First of all, thank you very much, Gretchen, for this hosting, and hi Laith again, because we keep connection. I don't know, do you hear me good, or we have anything about mic or voicing? Because in my screen, I think you don't hear me, so my voice is okay or not? Okay. Thank you very much for this hosting, and thank you very much, Laith, because I'm working with you in this what we produce about the prisoner, especially inside this whole war. We produced the episode of Prisoner of War by I need to answer how we filming this episode, and how we select the person and then go to talk to them, and then I will talk about the aim that we need to achieve from this program. We produce the episode by first of all, we identify the recently released prisoner, male and female, and then for sure we talk to them and making sure that they have no problem with filming and documentation, because the most ethical and the first step for doing anything is to ask the person if he have any problem or not, because our aim is to document what they live, not to put them in other problem or dangers. So we talk to them and making sure everything it's okay with them. Then our filming journey will start, because when I start this filming, I start by myself. Then later, other colleagues from with me come with me and take a part of producing this episode, because we have a special photographer. I do the dialogue, but we have somebody to photograph the episode. In the first episode, I do by myself everything, but later, no, we have a big stuff to work on all these details to make sure that we have a good technical details and have a good show. Our aim from this filming is to document the testimonies of the prisoners during the war. It is not a journalistic report. It is a detailed documentation. So our aim is not just to take their testimonies as recent testimony and enough with that. No. Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I just don't worry. It's from me. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Also, so it's our aim not just to take their testimony as a recent action. No, it's to take their testimony as a long action, not recent and temporary action. So we preserve it's including to preserve these testimonies for the present and for the future, because we are as a Palestinian, we are facing the colonialism that seek to erase our memory by intensifying the case. When we just facing the colonialism system as Zionism, they just try to erase our memory by continuous action and daily action. So they don't give us any time to think in these small action or big action. So we just continue our life in facing them without thinking about what's happening to us while we are facing the colonial system and colonial stellar in West Bank, in whole Palestine, of course, from river to river, and especially in West Bank where we are living. And that what we call in academic research, what we call a policies of memory and forgetfulness. And therefore, because of that, I tried and think this is documentation will preserve our living memory as a Palestinian who facing this Zionist colonialism daily. And the living memory, I use the concept living memory because it's a special concept that our colleagues call Rula Sarhan. It's a PhD student in Birzeit University. Her thesis, it's about memory and the policies of memory inside Palestine, especially through the media and digital media. So she wrote a concept. She wrote an article inside book. She called it living memory. Living memory. That's mean our living memory as a Palestinian in the daily life. So when I start thinking about the prisoner of war, I start thinking how I can use how can I use her concept as a living memory during we are producing a prisoner of war episode. So it's our background aim while we are producing the prisoner of war, to keep all the testimony and to keep all the details. Because also when I start this show, me and Laith, we have and discuss how we can need just to make sure it's a good program, not just document just for documentation the testimony. He just mentioned that those prisoners, they have their life, special life. They have their education. They have their work. We don't need to forget their context and their life and their family because they are now being a prisoner. Being a prisoner does not erase their normal life. Normal life, between quotation, of course, normal life. There is no normal life inside the colonial system. But never ever بغض النظر, there is just their families, their work, their education. So when we produce prisoner of war, we have sure that the prisoner will talk to us about her or she or he, about their lives before the before the prison, then while the prison, then after they release, how their life affect from the prisoner and their what they live inside. Do you want me to keep, or you need to
Okay,
dialogue
thank you
with
for
me?
that overview, Fairouz. And I think something that is important that you're conveying is that prisoners have rights. And that also includes the right to communicate, by the way. So it's not just education, healthcare, housing conditions also matter. The reporting that you've heard is about the condition inside the prisons. So as someone who was specifically doing a show about former Palestinian prisoners of war, why did you start this show? I assume it's because there's a need to hear from prisoners. So maybe now you can tell us more about how your program is different than how media for English audiences, media produced in the West, speaks about Palestinian prisoners. So how is Palestinian prisoners of war speak different than the coverage we see of prisoners in Palestine from media in the West or in English media?
Okay, I think the important sentence to start answer this question is there is no conditional financing. When we start producing our show, there is no donation or no any conditional financing. Tell us what we should talk and not to talk, and what is the concept we must use and what the concept we don't need to use. It's the most important thing when we talk about this program / show and how we can produce it. In every place you have maybe donation, maybe we have some budget to produce what you want. But if you come to the reality, you cannot do what you want, because if you sorry, because when somebody give you a money or budget, they will tell you what should you talk. And this is how our show is different about every program and every show, about especially about the prisoner, because everybody come and talk as Israel is is a normal state in quotation. And when we talk about the prisoner need, or how we can communicate with them, and what should they talk to us when we document with them, we don't go and just seeing Israel as a normal state, or as a normal state, even if the international laws just see it a normal state. It's not normal state, and it's not just an occupation state. It's colonial state. It's important just to back to the roots for the history of Israel. Israel is a colonial Western in our land, colonial Western in our land. It's the mirror of the whole colonial history from the Western world, and come to us because it's the reality of how Israel is dealing with us. It's not just Israel as just come from normal context. No, it's a mirror of what the colonial system mean, because it's just it just reflects itself as a Zionist fascist power in our land as a Palestinian. So our show different because when we go and talk, me, because I'm doing the dialogue with the prisoner, when I go and dialogue with them, I'm not just putting them in pressure or in any condition what they should talk or not talk. I give them all space to talk what they need to talk, what they see inside the prison, how the fascist colonial soldier doing with them, how they treat them, how they take them from their home in the night, and what's happening with them. And especially during the Tufan al-Aqsa war, because we see the most fascist policies with the Palestinian when they go and arrest. So when you give the prisoner the space to talk what he wants, this is how you being different about other English show, for example, because it's all related about what you think and what the platform you work with as a Free Palestine TV believe. And we believe that we need to liberation, and liberation does not come with the conditional financing. It's coming with you when you have free money that does not pressure, does not make you under any pressure to do what the donate to talk or not to talk. I think it's the most different. Another different what we do, and when we do our documentation, we do it in Arabic because it's the mother language for Palestinian prisoner for sure. Then we translate the whole episode. It's some episode. It's so long, so 1 hour or maybe more than. So when we translate it, also we take care about the translation. We do not using what the Western or the white man need us to translate the concept. It's very important because when you it's all about our war. It's not just in the field. It's not war on the field. It's also media war. It's also concept war. What the concept you believe and what the concept you use. It's how show yourself and show how what is your battle or and how you are facing. Do you need just to being gray, or you need to be very very clear about your attitude? No, we are in Palestine, in Free Palestine TV. We are very clear about our political attitude, and we are not in gray space. We are in red space, not gray space. So it's how we are different in our show. I don't know if it's okay and enough in discussing this point, or you need me to.
It's clear. I think it'd be good to play a clip of one of your interviews. This is an interview with Samoud. Do you want to tell us about her before we show the clip? Why did you interview Samoud?
Samoud, it's a girl from Al-Khalil / Hebron. Because we need to use the Palestinian village and city's name, Al-Khalil / Hebron. She studies in also Al-Khalil city. She finished her BA in her city, then she go and finish her master degree outside, then come back again to Palestine. Samoud was arrested during the war, and before she was arrested, the Israeli Zionist killed her sister. Killed her sister while she was in her home, and just watching from the window what is happening, because the Israeli soldier come to their village and go to just as the situation inside Palestine. Every day, every time, the Israeli soldier inside the cities, inside the village, they come to arrest people or kill Palestinian, for example. So in that day, her Samoud's sister was in her home, and the sniper, Israeli sniper, kill her without doing anything. Just she's being stand, and the sniper kill her. Samoud's sister also have a daughter. So her daughter, it's it's really it's very emotional and very sad, because when I remember her daughter and just remember their facing when they know the news, it's really being very very sadness. So her sister was a martyr, Then after 1 month, they come and arrest Sumud. Sumud spent 3 months in no more than 3 months. I think 4 months inside Damoun prison. It's her first arrested situation. So she have been inside the prison and in not normal situation. This is the first thing. The other thing, and she was not forgetting her sister. She still need to understand what's happening with her. Her sister was a martyr, and she does not have time to go in her sadness or thinking or remembering what happening with her sister. Then suddenly they come and arrest Sumud. It's a complicated situation. So when I again, I'm sorry. So when I select Sumud, we select Sumud because Sumud not have just one story. She have two story in one person. The what she lose her sister and what she lose by arresting her by Israeli soldier. So it's just briefly about Sumud and her situation.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing about her story and why you did the interview. We're going to play a clip now, and as was mentioned, Fairouz is interviewing former prisoners, and you can see in this example of Smood, she's also interviewing the women. And I think this is something that we don't see much in English language or Western media, is that number one, there are prisoners, Palestinian prisoners. We predominantly in Western media hear about Israeli hostages, and we hear that there's both men and women who are hostages. We rarely hear about Palestinian prisoners, and when we do hear about Palestinian prisoners, it's usually the men only that we hear about. We actually don't hear about the women. So this is one of the values of the interviews, is not only that she's interviewing former prisoners, but she's interviewing both men, women. She's interviewing them, as she said, in the language they're most comfortable in, which is Arabic, and completely subtitled in English. So I'll play the clip now.
I want to say also that
Sorry.
also Fairouz herself was a former prisoner, and therefore she is part of that community. That's, when we're talking about how our content is community media, she is part of the community of the prisoners. She knows their what they went through because she went through it, and she can address it more correctly as those communities would like themselves to be represented. And that wouldn't happen if she wasn't herself a former prisoner.
بعسلان أو بالرملة، جزء ضئيل منهم بوصل على سجن الدمون بدليل. هلا أنا التقيت مع كم من أسيرة، بصير باستثناء قصتهم هي كالتالي، إنه أغلب هدول الأسيرات اليوم موجود منهم بس 3 بسجن الدمون. هدول الأسيرات إنه كانوا بينتقلوا مثلا من الجنوب للشمال بالممر الآمن، تم اعتقالهم، أخذوهم على المعسكر عدة أيام. أغلبهم جايين فاقدين عائلاتهم بشكل كامل. في أسيرة مثلا تم اعتقالها إنه من ما اللي يسموه الممر الآمن، اللي هو بالمرة مش آمن، هو لتصييد الفلسطينيين واعتقالهم وإذلالهم. هاي الأسيرة إنه ابنها طفل صغير كانت حمليته وعم بتلجأ لمكان تاني، هم أخذوا ابنها رموه على الأرض واعتقلوها، في ظل إنه عائلتها أصلا كانت مستشهدة، مش ضايل منها ولا أي حدا، هي طول الوقت بالمجهول. في النهاية هي كمان انقطعت عن كل أهلها، التواصل مع عائلة، مع الامتداد تاع عائلتها، هي ما بتعرف ولا أي شيء. بظل كمان إنه إحنا مثلا الأسيرات الضفة أو القدس أو الداخل، إنه بيجوا محاميين بيزورونا من وقت لآخر. أسيرات غزة تدخل الواحد اليوم على سجن الدمون، لا بتشوف محامي ولا حدا بيعرف عنها ولا أي شيء، بتنقطع انقطاع كامل عن الكوكب. فبصفي إنه هي مش عارفة هل الناس أهلها كلهم بطلوا موجودين، أهلها برضو إذا كانوا أهلوهم إذا كانوا عايشين بيعرفوش بنتهم عايشة ولا ميتة. فوضع أسيرات غزة جدا صعب. بيحتاج عن جد تسليط ضوء على قضية أسيرات غزة وأسرى غزة يعني بالمجمل، لأنه بالمعسكرات عم بيتم التعامل معهم بطريقة جدا فاشية، بطريقة جدا لا إنسانية. في قصص لما أنا سمعت حسيت إنه بدي أنفجر، إنه شاب شعر راسي كيف نحكيها بالمثل العربي، من سوء الوصف، من الإشي الصعب، ثقيل إنه القلب يستحمله.
I want to say about this episode that YouTube took this episode down out of all of the episodes of prisoners of war for no reason, I guess, except that they felt it must have been effective in reaching the audience.
Gretchen, I think I need to talk about something you mentioned about women. Regarding to the women talking, because we talk about them, conditional funding and women organization in Palestine have proven, especially in this war, we just seeing how the women organization in Palestine have proven that their loyalty is just to the colonial West, which does not respect Palestinian women or their suffering, because the main tool of oppression is the Zionism, in quotation Israel, which was created by them, by the colonial West. It's just very important not to talk about, because when we just coming and asking where is the organization, organization and institution inside Palestine who care about women, their suffering, what's happening with them, and especially in the case of I don't think it's really to just separate by the region, but when we talk especially in Gaza, Palestinian women from Gaza, they are suffering not just more than other women, but yes, I'm really sorry because I'm talking about that, but yes, the woman from Gaza was suffering and being under pressure more than the women from West Bank, not because they are from Gaza and the women from West Bank. No, Israel does not care about the region you are come from. Israel have one aim: it's to kill you as a Palestinian, or insult you, or threat you in the day, during all the time. It's the main thing, that your identity is a Palestinian man or woman, especially if you are a woman in Palestine. Israel just care about the identity that you are a Palestinian. But because the situation, because the war started from Gaza Strip, the Israeli mental think that if they just pressure the woman from Gaza Strip, it will be the most tool to insult the all Palestinian, not just inside Gaza, not inside in whole the Palestine, from river to the river, and they just think if they because of also they just think any Palestinian Gaza resistance, it's just will be more insulting for the fighters in the field, and how we can make them under pressure by taking their mother and sisters and friends. So so when we ask because all the situations start about women, and we asking where's the institution inside Palestine, we see how they just dealing with the women, Palestinian women case, especially in Gaza. They just keep silent. It's not acceptable that they doing that. When you come and talk about self as an institution, care about women cases and women suffering, you need to take any action, not just being silent because your donation or your funding coming from the same person that support Zionism and support the machine of kills and arresting every day. If you are talking about yourself in you're a liberation person or liberation institution. So when we also continue to talk about all Palestinian women from all Palestine, from river to river. We don't see anything from those institutions. We don't see anything. They just keep silent. It's shame, and it's not just related in this war. Before this war, also they keep silent, but in other case. So their action and how they dealing, we need just to give bring them and ask them clear question, not why you are doing that, because we understand why you are doing that. Their funding coming from the main funding of Zionism. So we know how they can, how we know, sorry, we know why they do that. We need to ask them why they keep in doing that, why you are keeping dealing with those funding, and why you are keeping silent. It's what we need to ask them, if they are a Palestinian and respect their identity as a Palestinian inside Palestine.
Thank you for that, Fairouz. I wanted to ask in general about the show, but using the clip that we just saw as an example, when we see the place, it looks very comfortable. I assume that's a photo of her sister who was martyred behind her.
Yes.
I wonder about the ethics, and if you could speak practically, because the students here, including you, will have to produce content for a broadcast that we're hosting in commemoration of the International Day of Solidarity for the Palestinian people that happens annually on November 29th, which is also the day that the United Nations General Assembly passed a non-binding vote in 1947 calling for the partition of Palestine.
Okay.
And so since that day, the UN has annually called for remembering that November 29th is a day of solidarity, but also remembering the rights of all Palestinian refugees to return to their homes. And so as you prepare for that broadcast, you're going to have to engage in practical work and go out and talk to people. So that can be uncomfortable, surprisingly, sometimes for media and communication students. Fairouz, I know yourself, you're very talkative, you're very friendly, but you also studied Israeli studies. You didn't study journalism, so you didn't study communication. But I wonder, what are your strategies? I mean, Laith had brought up that you're a former prisoner. Maybe you're thinking about your own experiences and how you would like to be interviewed. But I wonder, how do you approach interviewing people who've lived trauma inside prison, which prison itself is traumatizing. Now make it a colonial prison. That is extremely dehumanizing and traumatizing for people such as yourself who have lived that experience. So how do you take care? What advice, how do you take care for the people you're interviewing and also for yourself? But what advice do you give our young media makers in the audience who are thinking about the media to be producing for the International Day of Solidarity for the Palestinian people?
Okay. I think the most important ethics during the filming is to make sure that the prison. Sorry, I'm just thinking about the prison, so I I just prepared to talk about the prison. So I'm really sorry. The most important ethics during the filming is to make sure that the person speaking is comfortable and not under any pressure. And make sure to inform them about all details about the episode and what happened and what will happening in this filming and where it will be published and how we will dialing and using it. Because for me, okay, I'm not communication student, but I love documentation. So when I start thinking how can we do documentation and being very ethical, not be unethical, because we need information from those people and we need their details, how we can use it in ethical ways. Really, the most important thing to be to make sure that the person is very comfortable, because if they not being comfortable, they will not being comfortable when they talk about their idea, themselves, and about what happening with them, because we talk about very sensitive case, what happening with them, with you inside the prison. And inside the prison, nobody know what happening with you, just you. So what you need to talk to us, it's related to what your memory will refresh, and what the action you need to being not just inside you. You need to share with your family, your friend, and your audience will who will see the episode. So before filming, the first you talk about something very important about the place. When I need filming with selected released prisoner, I'm asking them if they prefer their home, or they prefer to prepare another place and tell them to come and doing the episode. Some of them prefer and be comfortable in their home, because home reflect their save, reflect everything they're being cutting from it, because they are being inside the prison. So the place is very the place you decide to film and document inside it, it's very the most important details that makes the person comfortable. Sumut, for example, prefer her home to do the filming, and she's being very comfortable because she's in her place, not stranger place. And I have a rule, because when we are doing documentation, I ask a lot. And when you ask a lot, because also I understand the meaning of asking a person a lot of question, it just take me back to the investigation room. So I don't love to be playing any role like this. So my rule is, we are this is not an investigation, just a documentation. It's just being a funny, because I when I start talking with the with the prisoner we are released, we are selection, I start to tell them, okay, being comfortable, we are not in an investigation room, we are just documentation, what happening with you, it's your testimony that's important. I'm not asking a security question or anything dangerous for you. It's very important to tell the person about these details, because if you are clear in these details and what the kind of question you will ask him, it's make him or her very comfortable and being ethical. How being ethical when you just clarify these details, being ethical, because the person you work with them. And I don't think just I'm just filming with them and my role is just finish in this action. No, we are working together. I'm helping him or her, and he helping me, because when I talk to him, we are going and we are doing a support group. But we don't just support the group and finish it and disappear. No, we doing as a supported group, and saving this for the archive and for the future, and for us and for other people will maybe having the same action, the same case. Maybe they will be arrested. We need, when we talk, we keep other people safe. How we keep other people safe? Because anybody, especially the student, if any student, any active, see the episode and understanding the details, what happening with the released prisoner and with those people, they understand how can they dealing with their case if they being an arrested case. So they start understanding what happening inside the whole black prison, because the prison, it's not a good place, it's just a hell. You see things you ever never see it in your normal life. So when these things not keep in secret, it's really help people to facing them, to facing these prison, this tool that Israel use it to pressure and just to threat Palestinian. If you talk, if you do, if you are an active, you'll be murder, or you will be in the inside the prison. So when you understand, when you're not keeping what happening inside the prison secret, okay, it's not beautiful details to talk, but unless you share it, when you share it, the other people can understand what they waiting for them, and they can decide how they facing, not just decide to stay silent or being affair to being active. No, it's helping them to not affair, to not silent, and to speak more and to being active more. Sorry, I'm very sick, so I'm really sorry. And
I think I'll take the mic from you just for a
Okay.
second, because
I have just-
I like this point that you're making, where we can understand how prison is a way for Zionists to take control over the lives. Like the occupation is already controlling the lives and denying freedom and self-determination to the Palestinian people, but taking them inside of Israeli military prisons is further isolating them, dehumanizing them, and ultimately segregating and silencing them from the world. And so to understand that your show is helping to break the silence that the occupation's wishes would be maintained on prisoners after they're released through this kind of intimidation of don't talk, don't be active, don't do anything. And your show helps through a group way, because it's not just an individual, but through this kind of collective action, through community building, through what you called a support group, what Sarah referred to as therapy. Sitting down and having this communication, not an investigation, is an act of resistance, because Palestinians are refusing to be silent, even as former prisoners. So that is a defiance to the occupation, which would rather than be silent, not just inside, but also outside the prisons. I want to throw a question to Laith about constraints and challenges. And then we'll come back to you for any final words. And of course, questions from the audience. If you have any, put them on the chat. The live chat is where you can put your question. If you have any question here, please let me know. Of course, you can speak after the broadcast as well, if that's more comfortable for you, the people who are here in the room with Laith. So Laith, to go back to that question that I wanted to ask you about the constraints and challenges of FPTV, you are predominantly online, distributing online. We know that Zionists have taken over the Western social media monopolies, in the sense that Zionist policies are in action on these platforms, or Zionists are actually working in these platforms as censors. And so there's a real problem relying on social media, but you use a lot of social media to push your content out there. So have you faced any challenges also on the ground producing? You're now producing in Palestine, you're producing in Lebanon, you're talking about producing now in Jordan. How has that media space been for on the ground production? But also, what's the challenge been like in the online media space for FPTV?
So in real life, we are under a lot of pressure because of how unique the content is, whether it's in Lebanon or in Palestine. So because we are 100% pro-resistance and critical of the, let's say, Palestinian Authority collaboration with the occupation, we had in the beginning of FPTV last November, so a year now, we had Fatah goons here in Lebanon pull guns on us and destroy our studios and steal the equipment. We lost at that time $22,000 in equipment, and then we relaunched without a studio because of that. Fairouz in the West Bank, she was kidnapped basically by the Palestinian Authority and held and the salaries of the journalists were confiscated, and after went through a court situation, the money was returned, luckily, and we were able to pay our journalists. We don't know yet what's going to be the reaction in Jordan once our journalists start producing the content and we start airing it, but we're expecting also pressure to come down there. There's obviously online, there's all the Zionist hate that's constantly coming to us, comments and emails and calls, death threats on phones and so on. And the social media platforms for, I told you that one of the episodes of Prisoners of War was taken down from YouTube. There was another episode of Time Today that was with of Parliament here in Lebanon, Ibrahim al-Musawi, that we did in English, that had 100,000 views on it or so on. That also they took down. We got 2 strikes there, but our channel is still going on in YouTube. Our TikTok channel was shut down, and we reopened again, a different TikTok channel. And we noticed in TikTok, the minute we get a video that is, gets tens of thousands of views, immediately we get a strike on it. For instance, last week we got a strike on a video that is a tour inside Mar Elias refugee camp. There's nothing in it that is controversial. There's nothing violent. There's nothing,
But you
because
showed
they
the
saw
lives of refugees. Now, come on, that's very controversial.
Yes, and because they saw that there's a lot of traffic on it, they immediately put it as a community violation. We appealed that. They lifted the violation, and then within an hour, they banned that video again. Okay, because it got another big number of views. So you could see that there's an automation there put on the TikTok to anytime it reaches a high number, they.
Yeah, so the question from the audience is, are the videos being reported by Zionists, or the videos, like the social media users actually flagging this content on the platform? Is that what's happening?
There is, obviously, because this is a unique kind of content. At this point, clearly there is, Unit 8200 Israeli agents that are sit there and are trying to do whatever they can. But TikTok is the worst because TikTok got sold to the Americans because of Palestine, basically, and they're so we're having a better time on Instagram, which is crazy, but for now we have a lot of other platforms that we're using other than YouTube, or that are backup, Rumble, Odyssey, others that we are using and growing our audiences on, just in case we get taken down from any of the platforms.
And you're using basically 10 platforms
Yes.
at once because of this issue, which is taxing and time consuming for alternative media to literally be posting content across all these different platforms. And then also every platform doesn't take the same kind of content. So you package one way for Insta and another way for TikTok and a different way for Twitter. It doesn't get easier in the digital space. And also there's all the complications of the algorithms, as you mentioned, which there's no transparency about. There's no policies, there's no ethics. We were talking about Fairouz ethics with regard to interviewing prisoners. There's no ethics about these algorithms. It really is about capitulating to power, and specifically in this case, Zionist imperialist power. We do have to close the classroom, but I want to give to Fairouz, if you want to just tell us very briefly any final words. Do you want to speak? I had some questions up here about why the show, speaking about prisoners, interviewing prisoners, is important to you, or if you've seen any impact. Do you want to give us any final words, Fairouz?
I think yes. This show is important for me because I think I have been active and doing something have benefit for the society. for us as a Palestinian. Because when I see the news and what's happening with the Palestinian prisoner inside the whole prison, I'm just feeling bad and feeling very sad, because what can I ask myself very important question: what can I do for them? It's not from justice to let them facing all that by themselves. So what can I do for them? I asking myself every day this question. So this program important for me, because it's giving me an answer on how can I be active and benefit for them, to make sure that their voice will be loud and not silent, and talk about what's happening with them to the whole world. Because of that, our translation is very important. It's not just for our local community, because our local community is understanding and knowing what's happening with the Palestinian prisoner, because they are not stranger person. There are our friends, our teachers, our journalists, our family. So we understand and knowing what's happening with them. What we need to do for them, it's also to make sure that their voice will reach to all world, not just in our local community. So because of that, the show is very important for me, because it's given me a small answer about my role to the all prisoner, uh, male and female. And also it's important because I think it's important. I don't know if it's important or not, but I think it's important because it's also document and being in archive for this time and for the future. I don't know, maybe we are now we are live, maybe today, or I don't know, this day maybe will not continue as alive. So because in Palestine you don't know from where the death will come. In any second, in any minute, in any hour, maybe the sniper will shoot you. Maybe we will be dying in accident car. You don't know, but because the death is our heading title this day in Lebanon and in Palestine. So when I start this program, it's important for me because it will be in archive. If I die someday, I think maybe the people will remember me and how we dialogue with the prisoner, and they continue what we are starting. It's not exclusive for us. It's important to the people who will being and continuing alive to continue doing this filming, continuing this documentation, because it's important to continue, because our Palestinian revolution have a problem, a historical problem. It's not continuous our action. We do not keep continuous our work. We need to start talking now. It's the time to keep continue our work, to keep facing, to keep to keep just not being acting like it's normal to being under colonial system. It's not normal. It will not never being a normal situation, normal day, normal life, normal eat, normal sleeping, normal education. It's not normal. And because it's not normal and Gaza start, we need to continue in West Bank, in Lebanon, in other place. We need to keep continue. How we can keep continue? Not just in the field. Our talk now, it's this class, it's how can we keep continuous. This class is very important because we are sharing with us our idea. We are sharing with us together our experience. So we learning from us. This class is a symbol how we can keep continuous our revolution. Revolution is not just in the field. Revolution in the talk, in the write, how you what the kind of you are writing as an article, as an published paper. What are you talking? What the kind of you are talking? And I talk about the first thing I talk about. It's what is your political attitude as a clear political attitude, not using a gray concept and a gray space. No, being clear, very clear in what you believe, what you talk, and our war not just in the field. Our war, it's a media war. If we understanding how the media going, we can have a victory from media, because today, as a social media and everything is digital, everything is in AI, everything just in what we can see in the screen. So we need to win in this media war. If we win, we can have a very good impact. So because of all of that, and because I believe we need to win in media war, we are doing the prisoner of war speaking. We're doing this because our talk versus the Zionism talk. Our prisoner is very they are a people also, not just the in quotation the Zionism prisoner, just a human. We are also a human. We are a human, and we have the right to live. We have the right to continue living, and we have the right to do our everything in our life. It's our right, and our prisoner have their right also. We are a human. It's the maybe basic sentence we are talking now, but the word just forget this is the basic sentence. Just.
Great. Thank you so much, Fairouz. I want to give a last word to Laith and say goodbye to our online audience. We did have a few questions come online, and I just want to clarify for Sydney, Australia, that Fairouz is working from the West Bank and not inside of 48. So the Palestine, former Palestinian prisoners that she's dealing with are the ones who are released into the West Bank. Even the story of the woman from Gaza who ended up in the same prison with Samud was not released back into the West Bank. So she's specifically dealing with prisoners, former prisoners who are in the West Bank. And then in terms of the final question on the chat from Kardama, there's just a question about, well, not producing clickbait, what about producing media that addresses what's happening in the current news cycle? So I think it's a valid question to maybe end on, especially in terms of community media and recognizing sort of the limited resources to be caught up in that news cycle anyway, right? Like that's why news organizations are $1 million operations, because to keep up with the 24-hour news cycle and report as they do is an expensive operation. So how do you kind of respond to that 24-hour news cycle, but also could keep your community media mission and just say goodbye at the same time?
Yeah, one thing I would say about prisoners of war is that right now, not even in Arabic, is there any programming on any Arabic TV station that is interviewing Palestinian prisoners of war after they're released. So what's great about it is that we're doing this, yes, with English subtitles, but we're also doing a service for all the Arabic community, and that's why, and a lot of the organizations that deal with prisoners are sharing the content because it's in Arabic and there's nothing like it. Your question was about, I'm sorry, Malish.
Clickbait, and how do you, it's good you avoid clickbait, but how do you respond to the 24-hour news cycle?
So right now we are beginning, now it's been almost 2 months, just a little bit over 2 months, of us doing the programming from the ground in the West Bank. And the journalists and the montage team and translation team are finally getting into a cycle. And they're starting to be faster into production. So for instance, today and yesterday, the teams were out on the streets during the attacks on different towns and villages in the West Bank, and they're already producing the content. So although we're not going to be like within the minute producing, we will be able to be producing within hours of the story happening on the ground in the West Bank.
So keeping up with the 24-hour news cycle to some degree.
Yes, and again, but we're still refusing to be clickbait. That's we don't want. There's too much of that, anyways. It's not. We will not be doing anything different. And you can see something about. Everybody has been watching the content. Everybody knows who we are, but at the same time, you could see that all the outlets that do this clickbait and so on are avoiding sharing our content. And I think the content that FPTV is producing, including something like Prisoners of War, is challenging not only to the Zionists, but it's challenging to all the media culture that we have in our region even, and even within circles that claim to be with the resistance and liberation. So media spaces are very vicious, that are about careers and about money, including when we're talking about media spaces that are for the axis of resistance, okay? So whatever we're doing, because we're doing it with so little and doing it so special and having so much impact, it actually threatens everybody within those media circles. Therefore, again, you can see that this is what we should be doing, not what the money and or the power centers are asking for. And yeah.
Okay, so that's great. So thank you, Fairouz. Thank you, Laith. Thank you to everyone that joined us here in Gulbenkian. And I hope this session of Open Classroom with Media in Palestine has been useful for you to think about the content that you're seeing and what is the contribution of community and liberatory media in this media war. So thank you all very much. Please stay safe. Please keep reporting. And Fairouz, you have another comment. Please go ahead.
I have one comment because in chat they asking about the Palestinian prisoner role from 48 land, but I need just to clarify something. The Palestinian prisoner is a prisoner regardless of his geographical location. It's not important for Israel the geographical location of the Palestinian prisoner, but the Palestinian from occupied land in 48, Israel tried to keep them inside the prison because they have an political ID in quotation for sure that they are Israeli citizen in quotation. I mean, so Israeli try to using their geographical location to keep them inside the prison and to prevent them to being in any exchange deal if our resistance doing it, and try to keep them because of this line of rule, but it's really complicated, but they use it against the Palestinian, not for them. Israel using their location, their resident and from where they are to keep them inside the prison, not the opposite of that. It's very important just to clarify that, to not go.
Yeah, so the apartheid.
Walid Dakka, for example, Walid Dakka is
Yeah,
a
I was just
prisoner.
going to say the apartheid policies continue basically to affect prisoners even. We do have to close the classroom, Fairouz. So again, thank you so much for your time. Keep up your great work, and we will see you soon on another episode of Palestinian Prisoners of War Speak. Thank you so much. Thank you, Laith. Everyone, take care.
Thank you, Laith. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laith. Thank you very much.